that happens between Jesus and Allah on the Day of Judgment. And we'll look at that and see what happens there. And so these are about seven or eight different stages of his life, and a lot of verses. I collected in a Word document. It's about 6 or 7 pages of verses. And so lots of verses, and inshallah I'll present them little by little, and we'll talk about them and see what lessons we can get from all that to apply to our lives, to increase our knowledge, and then to make the story of Isa alayhi salam part of the fabric of our lives. My habit is to give kind of very I don't say organized, organized lectures where you can easily follow it. Right? I really encourage you to take notes. You probably won't find this sort of structure, the selection of verses and stuff anywhere else. If you want, anyone who's interested in the PowerPoints that I'll be starting tomorrow, you can bring a flash drive or something. I can give you the PowerPoints. But this is a great resource for parents, right, to teach your children, for Sunday school teachers to teach your students. Right, you'll have a whole set of verses, notes on those verses, to be able to then think about it yourself first, learn, act on it yourself, and then teach it to your children, your students. And then, what better way to reach out to non-Muslims, especially Christians, than to know about their what they call the Son of God, but the Prophet of Allah, right? To be able to teach them and express to them what we really believe about Isa alayhi salam. Recite salawat, please. Just as a final recommendation, this is the last night of this year, of the Hijjah, and the first night of Muharram for this coming year. There are a couple of mustahab acts that are recommended for this night. They're very brief things, generally. There's one short dua that we read earlier after Maghrib. It's about 4 or 5 lines. There's also a 2 rak'ah prayer that is recommended to say. And the 2 rak'ah, it goes like this. You say Fatiha, and then you say Surah Al-Ikhlas 11 times in each of the 2 rak'ahs. So Fatiha, and then Surah Al-Ikhlas 11 times, and same thing in the second rak'ah. So it's not a very long prayer. And then there's also, it's recommended to fast the first day of Muharram. And the riwayat from the Prophet, they say that anyone who does this, who says this dua and then fasts on the first day, it's as though the whole year you've spent kind of doing good deeds. Right? Good deeds are written for you for the whole year. You're protected for the whole year. And a lot of barakah from these acts. So inshallah, if anyone who's able, who has the circumstances, you don't want to do it if it's interfere with work or other aspects of your life, but if you can, then it's good to try to do these sorts of acts on these special occasions, inshallah. There are probably not too many questions. If there are any questions, I'll entertain them. For subsequent nights, I think there'll probably be more questions because the subject matter will be a little bit more difficult. But if there are any questions, I'll entertain them for a couple minutes, and then I'm going to share some of the masaib with you that I mentioned earlier. Anybody have any issues or questions?
Sister, any questions?
That's okay. Tomorrow, I think, inshallah, it'll be a little bit more thought-provoking when we start actually looking at the verses from the Quran.
I have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned 2 aspects of Imam Hussein's life.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more, because I missed it and some people came in late also.
Yeah.
Just briefly.
He's asking about the two aspects of I guess the 2 lessons that we can learn, 2 kind of the 2 goals that I have for these lectures. Think of it like this: one aspect is looking at Imam Hussein, and one aspect is looking at what Imam Hussein did. Right? It's like through the Masa'ib, the goal is to look at Imam Hussein, just see what he did, what he said, how he interacted with people, what he fought for, what his stated goals were, what his sermons were. Like actually recounting all the events of history, right? All of that's valuable, because then through looking at him, we end up with the same sort of benefit of having this story in the back of our mind constantly. With every instant, every problem we come to, we're like, oh yeah, that's just like that interaction with Imam Hussein. Right? I mean, think about a prayer, for instance. Like sometimes we delay the prayer, right? For no good reason, we'll delay the prayer. And if we just think about how in the Battle of Karbala, how conscious the Imam was about praying the prayer on time, right? in the heat of the battle, right? So that's you can immediately make that link and say, I'm obviously doing something wrong. I'm praying late for no good reason. The Imam had every good reason to pray late, and he still didn't pray late. He was uncompromising when it came to praying on time. Right? So like those sorts of connections, then we can build those. So that's looking at Imam Hussein as kind of as an end. There's another way to look at him to see like what did he stand for? What was his mission? His mission was, one of his goals was to reform the ummah, right? Reform the community of Muslims. Right? So if that's his goal and we're his followers, then we should also share that goal. And to the extent that we can, we should try to accomplish that same goal that he set out to accomplish. And that's where I was saying, we have these deficiencies within ourselves, within our community at large, but it starts with the self. And we see that we ourselves, to greater or lesser degrees, all of us are ignorant to some extent. Right? And so to the level that we're ignorant, then we should do something to fill that ignorance with knowledge, with understanding. And then by reforming ourselves, then we can start to reform our families and our friends and our community. And then we can actually continue this process of reform of the Ummah of the Prophet, which was one of the stated goals of Imam Hussein. And one of the ways to do that we're going to try to address, is to increase our knowledge about the Qur'an. That's one small aspect of the Qur'an. We take a bite size, for these 10 days. Even if we can perfect that bite size, that's wonderful. That's one void that we'll have filled in ourselves of ignorance. Okay, if there are no other questions, I'm going to share 2 stories with you. And these are stories that took place before Karbala. When it's always tempting to kind of try to start from the very beginning of the story and recount the whole story. But I'm going to limit it just to these 2 masail. My way is very untraditional. It's not a very emotional way or singing way or any of those things that you might be used to in other cultures. But I've tried to narrate these stories and translate them straight from history books. Right? So what we have, the conversations we have, are actually narrated. It's not just me making up conversation, but rather these actual traditions and stuff that have been narrated to us. And I think there's a lot of benefit in that, of knowing exactly what was said, exactly what happened. So I'm going to narrate this one story about a messenger of Imam Hussein by the name of Abdullah ibn Yuqtur. Right? Yuqtur, some books say Yaqtur, right? But Allama Sha'rani, one of our really big scholars, he says that the name should be Yuqtur. Abdullah ibn Yuqtur was born 3 days before Imam al-Hussein. His father, Yuqtur, was a servant in the Prophet's household, and his mother, Maymuna, was a servant in the house of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Because he was born around the same time as Imam Hussein, he was known as Lidatul Hussein. Lidatul Hussein from Tawallud, from Wilada. He was born at the same time as Imam Hussein, 3 days before, so they're like almost born at the same time. He's also known as Radi'ul Hussein. Radi' is someone who's drunken milk from the same mother. Even though his mother, Maymuna, had never nursed Imam Hussein, but because they were both in the care of Maymuna, she helped take care of both of them. It was as though they were two milk brothers. He was one of the messengers between Imam al-Hussein and Muslim ibn Aqil. And so Imam Hussein had sent Muslim, when he got these letters from Kufa, he wanted to double check and make sure that the Kufans are really sincere this time. They've already betrayed my father and they've betrayed my brother before. But now 18,000 letters, I can't ignore 18,000 letters from these people saying that you're our Imam, we have no other Imam. So I'm gonna test the waters. He sends Muslim ibn Aqil, his cousin, to go and see what's happening there, if they're really sincere or not. The messenger that he had that went between the two of them, between Mecca and Kufa, was Abdullah ibn Yuqtur. Soon after Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad took command of Kufa, a man named Malik ibn Yarbu' at-Tamimi came to Ibn Ziyad. He said, "May God protect the commander. I have some news. I was wandering outside Kufa on my horse when I saw a man speeding from Kufa heading toward the desert. I did not recognize him as a local, so I caught up with him and asked him about his circumstances. He mentioned that he was from Medina, so I came down from